Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the Alpine Greatest Hits webinar series, Barcode You. Every year, Alpine hosts industry-specific webinars with a year-long theme. This year, the greatest hits is the theme, and we're showcasing the greatest rock and roll album covers. This October is Barcode You, favorite of many. 2D barcode technology and network consistency. As we get started, you should see a survey pop up asking a few questions about your current relationship with barcode technology. Fill it out, close it out, and then we'll review the results after a few introductions. I must note that the information discussed in this session represents the views of the individuals and does not constitute legal advice. You should consult with your organization's leadership and legal counsel. So once you fill that out, you can get started in filling that out, and we'll continue from there. You got a few minutes to do that. Meanwhile, I'm your moderator, Ron Rafey with Alpine Supply Chain Solutions. I have 35 years in the industry, distribution operations mainly, new customer and new site setup, including layout and operational improvements. I've had the pleasure to work closely with the presenters today, Ken Rogan, who's representing Dexter Distribution Group. Ken was brought in to support the operations and systems integration end of a large merger and acquisition, and he's one of many on his team. We also have Alice Miller, a consumables specialist, who is great at keeping us in line and making it all happen for Barcodes Inc. So you'll hear more from them in a minute. Next slide, as we run through the agenda, Ken's going to do a quick introduction to Dexter, and believe it or not, you probably already use their products, you just don't know it. We'll cover the project scope and the problem we're trying to solve here. Alice is going to do a quick showcase on Barcodes Inc. and their array of technology and services, and then she'll lead a dive into creating network consistency using 2D barcodes. So hold your applause. But we'll be hitting, defining requirements, data structure, print methods, all the way through to continuous improvement. So who is Dexter? Here's a good chance. Like I said, you probably already used their product this weekend. Ken?
So Ron, thank you very much. It's a pleasure working with you and Alice and representing Dexter Distribution Group. And so as far as Dexter's concerned, we are the premier supplier of axles, doors, venting products, and related components in the utility trailer, RV, heavy duty, recreational boating, and manufactured and housing market. Next slide, please. And you can see from the map on the top right-hand side, one portion. Let's see here. So Dexter's goal throughout the integration is to have one system of record for the entire organization, and that is from an office perspective as well as the warehouse and operational needs. So for the purpose of this webinar, we will be discussing the technology upgrades as it pertains to the MC 9300 scanning, locator naming convention, and the shelf label printing. All right, next slide. And one portion of the integration pertains to our overall growth and to be a relevant player in the e-commerce field. 2D barcoding really assists in that initiative, as compared to 1D capabilities. And we'll learn a lot more about that as we move through this webinar. Thank you.
Okay, Alice, take us through Barcodes Inc. Quick
Thanks.
Introduction.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Ron. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alice Miller with Barcodes Inc. I am the consumable specialist here at Barcodes. I'm based in Chicago and have been with the company for over 16 years. As you can see, we have many locations nearly everywhere around the world. And like a good partner, wherever your business is, Barcodes will be there too. After 25 years in the field, we've developed and implemented strategies for nearly every kind of problem a modern business can face. You can see we have over 600 team members and ready to assist with your business needs. With Dexter's project scope, I'm one out of about 12 other team members working on Dexter's implementation. My specific role with the Dexter project is to provide everything labels. So anything from warehouse racking identification all the way to pallet tracking as well. We'd consider Dexter a split between manufacturing and distribution and warehousing, but we serve all verticals that you see here. Our technology platform is broad. Barcodes is proudly device agnostic, meaning we're not married to any manufacturer, and we'll always recommend hardware that that fits within the goals of your project and operational needs, regardless of the vertical or application. With Dexter, we provided solutions and devices in the following categories. We work together to provide a full solution. So let's take a look at how Alpine, Dexter, and Barcodes Inc. implemented 2D barcode technology.
And before we move on, Alice,
Yeah.
that's about 50%, if my math is correct.
That's
for
right.
These guys. Does everyone use half of your technologies?
You know, we try to be a one-stop shop for everyone to support, you know, throughout all of these different technologies. It really depends on what vertical, but in a warehousing application, I'd say we use at least 50%, if not more, you know, also dipping into tablets, RFID, and even emerging tech like robotics is really starting to expand these days. But yeah, I would say at least you're going to have your printing and your scanning, as well as all the labels that are involved with that too.
Excellent. All right, let's move on. So hold on to your seats, everybody. We're about to dive into the real structure here. But before we do, let's take a look at the survey results for those of you who filled it out. All right, I can see that it says, what are we at industry standards. 2 people filled it out and they believe they're at industry standards. Nice. Do you use real-time barcode scanning in your facility? And we've got 100% there. Oh, wait, let me see. Oh, here we go. No. So 2 out of 2 say no. So good. You're here to learn a little bit here. And then what else we have? Where do you 2D technology today? Where do you use it? So we do not use it. All right. So we're about to learn something here. Let's get cracking then and dive into the next slide. So here, this is the roadmap we're going to use today. These are the steps to achieve network consistency from defining through continually improving. And we will be focusing on the steps 1 through 6 mostly. So let's get into defining, and Alice, take it away from here.
Great. Thanks, Ron. So to start to define your network consistencies, we need to go through these few steps here. So starting with determining what network consistency means in your specific context. Maybe it involves an overhaul of your current ERP or WMS, or perhaps you're looking to completely create a new way of automation to track your inventory more accurately, or provide a better customer experience, manage your assets, authenticating processes, or other applications. So once you've defined those goals, we want to also clearly define your objectives, such as real-time updates, accurate data capture, centralized management. In Dexter's case, all 3 of these objectives are listed in their network consistency requirements. And once you've defined the objectives, it's time to build your team, both externally and internally. Consult with outside resources like Alpine and Barcodes Inc. They can assist with identifying software, hardware, and the tools to achieve network consistency. These could include WMS, Wi-Fi surveys and installation, product demoing, label management, and mobile device management as well. Make a plan, follow through with that plan, and you'll achieve your goals.
Yeah, and so speaking about plans, just to give you a heads up, the way we got introduced to each other, Alpine was working with Dexter over developing a good WMS for their solution for their network, and quickly realized, hey, we need some help. And Barcodes was introduced to the project real early, and like we saw earlier, they used a lot of their services. So let's see how 2D barcode technology helped Dexter with their network consistency.
Thanks, Ron. Let's do that. So let's start with understanding barcodes. We're going to talk barcode basics. We'll begin with 1D versus 2D, character encoding and storage, as well as size of the barcode, which is a direct correlation to the amount of characters that can be encoded. And also it determines the scan distance that we can achieve. So barcodes are categorized into two classes. We've got 1D barcodes and 2D barcodes. But within those classes are symbologies. And how I like to describe symbologies is they're just like fonts to words. So
I love that example, by the way.
Thanks. So you see two fonts on this slide. For example, the header, the 1D versus 2D symbology example, that's in the big shoulder display font. And the Calibri is the bullet point font. These physically look different, but still they're alpha characters conveying words. Same goes for barcodes. There are many different types of symbologies like UPC, which we have everywhere within basically every product we buy in the store worldwide. Interleave 205 is an example used by luggage tracking in the airline industry. Code 128 is used in inventory tracking, and some of you may use that today, as well as in your warehouse. Perhaps you don't use code 128, but maybe you use code 39, which is also used in inventory and warehouse tracking. Moving on to 2D barcodes, those include the QR codes, which are mainly used in marketing. We've experienced using these at restaurants once we had contactless menu. So that would take us to a website that showed the menu. Data matrix is another 2D barcode. This is also used in inventory, warehousing, and tracking. Aztec, it's a mobile boarding pass, or also used in Apple Wallet. PDF 417, we may have those on the back of our driver's license, or also used in mobile ticketing for airlines and other concert type events. But today we're going to focus on code 128 and data matrix for comparison for these, as they're the most commonly used in the barcodes space when we're looking at warehousing within the four walls.
Excellent.
So let's take a look at this matrix here, which kind of shows us the differences of code 128 and data matrix. Code 128 can only encode the alphanumeric characters on your keyboard plus functions 1 through 4. Whereas data matrix, they can encode all of the characters on your keyboard. That includes the combinations of like ASCII characters and special characters as well. Data matrix can fit more data in the same space. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the future. Data matrix also has an error redundancy built in, which is really great. So if the barcode gets damaged or gnarled, there is up to a third of that barcode. As long as it's 2/3 of it is still readable, it's going to be readable by the scanner as well, because there's a built-in error redundancy. And then ease of scanning, linear scanning with those 1D barcodes, it requires more accuracy and time scanning the barcode. Whereas if we move to an omnidirectional or a linear image type scanning, this is speedier in the aiming and more ergonomical to the user, because they don't have to align the laser line to the barcode. So it allows the user to hold the scanner more naturally, cutting down on the scanning fatigue. Also, the labels with 2D barcodes, they actually require less space to physically print. So you'll see these 4 barcodes on the screen, and they're the exact same data in there. So alphanumeric characters, exact same, but they appear in different sizes. This is because of the symbology's density. So 2D barcodes are smaller because they can store more data on a smaller space. This is measured in mil size, and 1 mil is equal to 1/1000th of an inch. So the information density is the number of characters that can be encoded per inch, given that specific mil size or X value. The greater the mil size, the more characters that can be encoded in an inch, and thus the density rises. So the greater the density, the larger the barcode, which is equal to the further the scanning. So we can see that just in the image there. So soon we'll see a video scanning barcodes in action, but first let's talk about the labels that are used, the scanners used, and some distances we should be pay attention to. These are the labels that are used in the video. The larger ones are 8.5 by 11, and the smaller ones are 2 3/4 by 9, which is a very universal size that can be fit onto the beam face, no matter if you do or don't have a wire decking overhang on there. The material is retroreflective label material, which is typically used in warehousing when we need to scan labels from a really high level on the racks, or if we're scanning from placards that are mounted to a wall or hanging from the ceiling. Using a combination of retroreflective labels and long-range scanning, it ensures that the barcode can be scanned accurately when mounted up high. The MC9300 with SE4550 scan engine was used. This is a 2D long-range scan engine, and you'll see a snippet here from the spec sheet. It shows that the code 128 1D barcode at 100 mils can be scanned from 840 inches or 70, we do the math, 70 feet when printed on that retroreflective material. The spec also shows that a code 128 1D barcode that's 4 inches wide can scan from 9.5 feet or 110 inches on a white label. So in our video, we're going to see that we have a 78 mil code 128 retroreflective material printed on a retroreflective material. So let's see if we can get that distance of that 70 feet. So in the 3 scenarios that we're going to see, I'd like you to keep your eyes on the red box indicating the label location. They're going to be kind of hard to see because we're going to get some serious distance out of these. So looking at this frame, you can see in the upper right hand corner, there is that red box that's indicating where those labels are. Also keep your ears open for scan beeps. Clock the speed of the beeps for each label being scanned. You'll also see red flashes on the labels, and that's being emitted from the scanner. The faster the beeps and the faster the flashes are going to equal the easier the scanner is decoding that barcode. If they slow down, the scanner's having a little bit more trouble picking it up. And that's where we can see kind of where distance is really playing into the fact. So let's take a look for ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video here, and we'll take a look. So here we have our labels again. And we'll start off in the first scenario, just our standard rack here. And you see those rack labels. So scanning at a 5-foot distance, 10-foot high labels, easy peasy, no problem on both of those. We're going to go to a narrow aisle, which is 6 feet 4 inches high, wide, and scanning from a little over 13 feet. Both labels, no issue. And now this is really going to be the meat of it. We're going to take a look at a couple of different distances. Notice that the 2 on the bottom of our small labels and the 2 on top of our big ones. And we'll always start at the bottom right and move around. And on the right-hand side, that column, that's our 1Ds. And the left-hand side is our 2Ds. And notice how fast those scan beeps were happening on those bigger labels. Let's do it again.
I noticed.
So at 41 feet 8 inches, you're no longer able to scan the 1D barcode. It's a small one. Still successful for the rest. We're going to move back more. Let's see if we can scan that 2D small barcode. And it is no longer successful scanning. But those bigger barcodes, still very successful. And that was at 57 feet 6 inches. Moving all the way back to 98 feet 2 inches. We're no longer able to scan the 1D large barcode, but still able to scan about 40 feet more 2D barcode. So let's take a quick look at this matrix. So just showing here, we're basically able to scan 40 feet more using a 2D barcode than we are with the 1D barcode. Did we get 100 with our 78 mil label? Did we get 70 feet? We didn't, but that's not what we expected, right? Because the spec sheet told us we would get that longer distance with a larger mill barcode, but that does, display in real life that the larger the barcode, the further the distance. Additionally, 2D barcodes enable you to put a smaller barcode on a label because of that smaller size physically required. But if we were to increase that label as well, we get a greater distance and we get snappier scanning, because we notice that it's faster scanning the bigger the barcode is. Now that we've seen barcode scanning in action, let's discuss encoding the barcodes.
All right, designing.
Yes. So
Alice,
yes.
Excuse me 1 second. A question on the previous slide, please.
Yeah.
So really, the MC9300 is a mobile computer, and just wondering if you made any modifications to the laser prior to utilizing it, or was it off the shelf?
Oh, that's a great question. So no, with the demo, I was at our location where our demo team actually resides. I just asked them for that specific MC9300 with the long range scanner, literally pulled it out of the box as doing a factory wipe, or just like getting a new barcode scanner. And then there's a demo application that runs on the device that just opens up a window and allows you to scan as many barcodes as you want. And so no, literally out of the box, no issue, nothing changed, nothing special about that barcode scanner.
Excellent. Thank
yeah,
you.
thanks.
Just
Thanks for asking.
You were probably aware of the planning that we did as well, and we did those exact tests and had very similar results. So excellent gun.
Wonderful. Glad it's working out. Of course, like we said, we're agnostic. So if there's other manufacturers that others are more comfortable with, we can use it. But we chose that one because of the distance and the scannability with that scan engine.
Thank you.
Yeah. So moving on to design structure, this is where the true foundation is built for network consistency with 2D barcodes. When designing data structure, the location bin tracking in the warehouse, it's important to consider the schema of your data. Because of that, we can then get efficiency, scalability, and ease of maintenance. This is done through mapping out your facility and the use of hierarchical structure, as well as unique identifiers and planning for future growth in the warehouse. So let's talk hierarchical structure design, which typically includes zones, aisles, bays, levels, bins, or also known as positions. So we'll start at the bottom of the pyramid with zones. These are large locations such as your coolers, your freezers, your dry goods, your raw materials, or your finished good areas. These can also be separate buildings within or separate warehouses, but they're on the same property. Moving on then is aisles, also known as rows. These are the traffic patterns within that racking system in the warehouse. And then we have bays, which are typically identified as the space between two uprights within that racking system. Levels are within the bays and ascend vertically. Typically, they go from bottom to top. And then finally, bins, also known as positions, are locations within each level. Example, typically we have a bay that has 2 pallet positions or bins per level. Pick levels could have many positions or bins because smaller cartons or bins are stored on that level. So once we've defined our hierarchical structure, we must assign the barcodes to the schema. And to do that, we use unique alphanumeric identifiers for our aisles, our bays, our zones, our levels, and bin positions. To avoid conflict, we need to ensure that each identifier is the same length and character and is unique within that hierarchical level. So the goal is to have the same number of characters in every barcode. So choose a schema that is consistent throughout the facility, but never repeated. Additional unique identifiers include color and arrows printed in location labels. And in this example, you'll notice that there's color coding and arrows based on the level, as well as arrow direction to point to the correct bay when using a totem on the upright of the rack system. Or we can use arrows and colors on the beam face, again, to identify level identification. And these are also needed sometimes if there's multiple labels on a level that indicates two different directions. So let's drill down to the unique identification within the data structure. In this example, AB is our zone, 2 is the aisle, 0, 1 is the bay, D is the level, and finally, the last digit is position. And this way, every position has its own unique barcode or location address. It's just like your home address. A letter carrier would use to deliver your mail, not to your neighbor or not to another person with the same name in your town. The U.S. Postal Service uses name, street address, city, state, zip code, and country code to enable us to receive the mail delivered to the right location. This practice is exactly the same and should be used in your warehouse. So Ron's going to actually share with us some practices to scale for growth within our warehouse as well.
So, plan for the future expansion by ensuring that your system can accommodate additional aisles, bays, levels, and bins without significant modifications. So what you want to do is create a schema that allows for that expansion. An example would be if you have aisles with open space on either side, you may not want to start with an aisle that's labeled A or O1, but start at B because you do have space to the left. Consider starting your first aisle to allow room for that growth. You can also provide, or this will provide the expansion without relabeling the rest of your facility. Another way to think about that is to plan that future expansion by ensuring your system can accommodate not only the additional aisles, but actually additional bays without significant modification. So create the schema that allows for that, right? So how do you do that? In this example, if you're using numeric structure for your bays, start out by using odds and evens on one side of the aisle across from each other. And then skip missing bays. Like in the middle of this layout, there's missing bays, but we keep the numbering consistent so that bay 6 is always in the right area of the facility in every aisle. And they all end at 11 and 12. So here we're starting at bay 01, but what if we need to use the open space above for additional storage? Bay expansion is easy to accommodate by labeling the bays for growth. Start at 11 instead of 01, and then you can accommodate growth without relabeling the entire area.
So Ron, to comment on that, as we worked through our fleet of branches, this is exactly how we have set up our facility as well for the growth. And this also provides flexibility through the peak seasons as well. So excellent strategy. And we did implement that on every one of our branches.
Right.
Thank you.
Only not starting at 1 or A, also skipping occasionally where we thought there was potential for growth. So got to look into the future for growth.
Correct.
Keep yourself flexible.
That's right. Thanks, guys. So now that we know 2D barcodes, we can provide ease of scanning in the warehouse. We know how our data is to be structured for barcode location, and we've planned for physical expansion within our facility. We now need to put it all together and assign the barcodes to each location. So to do this, we need to bring in our teams. So use Alpine, create a rack and elevation plan if you have one available, or physically walk your facility to map out and identify your barcode locations. Already have locations in a previous database, absolutely use them. As long as they're accurate and fit the hierarchical structure, have unique identifiers and are scalable, then please use it, once that you know exactly how many zones there are, how many aisles you have within your zones, how many bays you have in your aisles, how many levels you have in each bay, and how many bins in each level, we can finally identify and assign the location ID barcode to their corresponding location in your facility. This step can be done by using Excel. Each hierarchical level will receive its own column in Excel. You can see here there's one for aisle, bay, level, and bin. It's important to have separate columns for each of these because you'll use the filter function and formulas to define attributes to the barcode label identifier. It's also great to have when you need to sort or isolate any unique identifiers. In this example, you'll see both arrows and colors are also added to show unique level identification. And that's determined on, each level. So you can sort by level or use a formula if then type of formula as well within Excel to automatically assign those colors and arrows.
Yeah, like for Dexter, we only had arrows on the A level pointing down.
Right. And that would be because the A and the B level was both shared on the lower beam, but we just wanted to indicate that A was down. Absolutely. And, people use them 50-50. It's all about, what your employees are and if they are very familiar or if you have seasonal employees, maybe you want to have more identification on those labels as well. So we also want to make sure that we're assigning everything to be consistent throughout the data, because if the data in isn't good, it's not going to be good out either. So the location ID barcodes are the name of the locations within your ERP or your WMS software. You also utilize the data to print your labels and set the foundation to achieve warehouse consistency. So let's take a look at that print method.
Alice, before we move on, I just want to remind everyone, you can use the Q&A function to ask any questions mid webinar, and we'll try to get them answered as they pop up.
Thanks. So two methods of creating those barcodes are one to have an outside source like Barcodes Inc. to print them for you. Also, you could use a software to print on demand. Of course, you can use a combination of both of these methods. When adding special features like colors or printing larger scale or signs that are typically like hung out indoors from the ceiling or outside, you're going to want to use an outside source to do that. But let's say you want to print yourself or want to be able to print location labels on demand like Dexter does and is using. You'll need a barcode generation software to create unique 2D barcodes. Selecting to the right software is key. Here you see three options, popular options that are on the market: Bartender, Nice Label, and Zebra Designer. And Ken, do you want to share a little bit of the kind of the motions that you guys went through in regards to printing?
Sure, absolutely. And in reference to using the hybrid version of utilizing barcodes as well as printing on-prem, we did a portion of that throughout our whole conversion. But when we talk about an on-prem perspective, DDG reviewed Nice Label and Bartender as the two vendors for printing the labels on-prem. And really knowing that ultimately there would be a need to migrate to a cloud-based application, Bartender provided the cleanest path for, from a system and process transition perspective. Integrating Bartender with Zebra printers proved to be a very user-friendly as well, simply because the two integrate very well. And if you're familiar with the technology aspect of it, Zebra is really a seamless, almost virtually a plug and play. And so it worked out well. And overall, we're pleased and currently working through the migration towards the cloud-based with Bartender.
Great. Yeah,
Good,
thanks,
thank
Ken.
you.
So we now have our data structure schema. We have the ability to print the barcodes. Now we need the ability to scan them. This is where hardware deployment comes in, and utilizing your external resources like Dexter did by bringing Barcodes Inc. In to help assist with choosing the right device for the task. We want to make sure that the scanner can scan the right barcodes at the right time and capture the required information accurately at the distances that are required. So we'll want to implement mechanisms to deal with barcode scanning errors or discrepancies. We'll want to be able to validate the scanned barcodes against expected structures within your WMS. Also, we want to maybe make some rules on the physical scanner itself so that we're checking for duplicates and not allowing double scans. This can all be done by utilizing the features within the scanner and the software that you may already have. But also don't forget to plan for repairs for the hardware. Don't rely on your IT teams, because a lot of us don't have a lot of IT teams available. Use contracted services that are available for the hardware that you purchase. This will keep the data flowing and your workers working. So we've also want to now establish the data capture integration. We've got our barcodes, we've got our scanners, but let's see where that data goes. This is where your ERP and WMS type softwares and data exchange pieces really come together. We go back to our example of the Excel sheet for our locations, which are the barcodes and store the hierarchical data structure that's related in your database. So this enables efficient data retrieval for querying and updates. If there are dashes in the barcode, then there must be dashes in your data. As you can see here, the column G is our actual barcodes, which omits the dashes, but on our labels, we show it. And that kind of ties back to also not only the assigning the barcodes, but making it easier for the user to interpret that label and know where they are within your physical facility itself. So we also want to integrate scanning interface by purchasing or developing softwares. Utilizing existing solutions like apps or URL browsers that run on the device like the MC9300 will take the scan data and map it to your required locations. This usually is already available for the type of softwares that you're using. Also make sure to make it easier again on your IT team. Utilize services like hardware staging and mobile device management within all of the devices. This way the staging this way the devices are staged and set up consistently throughout the network. And they can be managed under one pane of glass. So an MDM enables you to mass update your devices and monitor their health in real time. So speaking of real time, we need to implement real-time updates. In Dexter's case, their facility didn't have all of their facilities didn't have Wi-Fi for data transfer because some were coming from pen and paper, where others had already implemented some automated scanning. But if the network consistency requires real-time updates, we need to establish the mechanisms to transmit and process barcode data immediately. This may involve installing or updating your current Wi-Fi infrastructure, integrating with a cloud-based system, or a centralized server on-prem. So ensure that the entire network can access and update data consistency by utilizing, again, your external resources to help you with that.
You know, and Alice, if I could comment on that real quickly, through our branches, you know, we made the large investment with the handheld scanners and the handheld mobile computers and all of that. But to support that, we really needed to have the Wi-Fi surveys done, because there's no need to invest in the scanners if you're not going to get that real-time update. And some of our facilities, we have a few hundred locations, a few hundred yards outside of our facility. We have to have real-time scanning in order to complete our tasks sufficiently. So doing the surveys is definitely a benefit that we capitalized on, and finding success with it as well.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that, Ken. It's like buying a car without wheels. What's the point if you can't go anywhere, right?
That's exactly right.
With that Wi-Fi survey and then install, we could light up all of Dexter's locations inside or out, no matter if it was in the laydown yard or within the four walls. So Absolutely. Thanks for that. And just like Ken mentioned, now that they're rolling and they've gone live because they have that Wi-Fi, they have their barcode scanners, the real-time data transfer, the barcode labels themselves. The next step really is to monitor and maintain. We need to regularly monitor the performance of your barcode system to ensure network consistency. Establish procedures to handle barcode reprints, data inconsistencies, connectivity drops, and repair to hardware. Conduct periodical audits and maintenance activities to keep the system functioning optimally. Establish procedures for regular maintenance for your data structure. This includes updating any changes in the physical layout, such as reconfiguring for additions and ensuring the barcode information in the system remains accurate and up to date. And now, last step here, continuous improvement. As your network evolves, consider feedback from your users and stakeholders to improve the barcode system. You'll likely find features that are unused or new features released by the software or hardware that you're using that can really improve and optimize your processes that you have in place. Hopefully by implementing 2D barcode technology in your network, you've achieved your goals and now you're ready to easily adapt for customers' new requirements. And ready to integrate more advanced technologies like machine learning, and artificial intelligence, and robotics to enhance your network consistency and efficiency. And efficiency. You know, as we know, the name of the game is to continually evolve to meet the next business challenge. Everything is fast moving in our world, so you can certainly use this roadmap as a guide for the next technology to create your network consistency as well. So with that, certainly
we
can
do have
open it to
questions. We
questions.
have one out there.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, the question is back to the label printing. We use Label View to print our location labels.
Yep.
Any specific benefits we miss out that are offered by the three we suggested?
So the one of the main reasons that that Dexter chose, so Label View, first off, Label View is great. If you simply just need to print barcodes and have the ability within that system to print 2D barcodes, fantastic. If it's doing what you like it to do, that's wonderful. Another main reason that we moved from Label View, Nice Label to Bartender was Label View didn't allow us to isolate the area that we wanted to print. So if you noticed on those different labels, there were our data strings were larger. Maybe we had some inventory items that were only 4 digits, and maybe we had another inventory item that were 16 digits. What Dexter wanted to do is isolate it so that the barcode never got larger based on how much data was actually being encoded in it. Same goes for the physical human readable text. They didn't want a space to go bigger or smaller because we have a 4x2 label. And that's the only real estate we had to work with, where Bartender allowed us to isolate that physical size and change the data no matter what size our barcode was, no matter what size our encoded data was for that location label or for our item.
So Alice, you're saying the font size didn't change because you had fewer characters, it didn't get bigger.
Yeah, so Bartender allowed the font size to change, but not the physical real estate on the label itself.
Gotcha.
Whereas with Nice Label, Label View, it didn't have that feature. It could only scale based on the data. So in general, you're not necessarily going to run into that little quirk, but in general, all three of those softwares do the job. They print barcodes. But if you're looking to integrate with a cloud-based system or do more enterprise, like enable it throughout your entire facility, perhaps another level of Nice Label is needed, or you may want to migrate to a completely different software as well.
Any other questions? Type them in. I know there was a question that we had about the scan gun that we used for the test. Were there any modifications made to that scan gun in your video?
So there weren't any modifications made to the scan gun itself, but Ken also kind of alluded to there were some modifications that Ken's team needed to change because of scan distance. Also has to do with like outdoor lighting. If they were going to the laydown yard to do some scans and it's a sunny day, that scanner has to automatically adjust to the sunlight. Or if it's a cloudy day, it needs to be a bit brighter. Or if it's dark warehouse, it needs to be brighter. Or if you're scanning from an under a light above, you can set the scanners to transition for that as well. You can also change them so that the field of view is either smaller or larger. For instance, on Dexter's labels, you notice that there were 2 barcodes. So we can make that field of view smaller so it isolates one barcode versus the other. So we're scanning the right barcode at the right time.
Thanks, Alice. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can hit the next slide.
Sure.
Little promo for next month. Alpine's greatest hits for November. No more rumors. Creating successful strategies for associate communication and retention. Oh, we have another question before we move
Great.
on here. And that is, what about same questioner? What about identifying pallet bulk locations at low cost? We have products that can vary from 8 pallets to 100 pallets.
Yeah, so bulk locations, usually you want to utilize those wall mounted or hanging from the ceiling retroreflective labels. If I understand correctly, bulk locations, you were saying, is going to house, multiple pallets at a location. This could be like a staging, or maybe you have overflow within your facility that you need to cram them in those aisles or anywhere that you can find space. You would want to use hanging barcodes typically with a long range scanner with retroreflective, and then you can certainly ensure that you'll be able to scan from those distances required.
All right, thanks, Alice. And then one more slide here.
Sure thing.
All right, so thank you all for joining. If you need to get a hold of us, you have any more questions, as soon as we hang up, I'm sure some questions will pop up into your head. There's a couple of addresses here to call. Alice Miller directly at amiller@Barcodes Inc. or Landon Davis at Alpine Supply Chain Solutions. And you can always visit the Alpine website. This video will be available, not within hours, but I think maybe later in the week, maybe even later tonight. It'll be on our website, and there's other content on there as well, past webinars that we've hosted this year as well as previous years. So with that, I want to thank you all for coming out. Have a good day. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you all.
Again. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.